Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of NP Deidre. We are going to be talking today about all of the foods that can help boost your magnesium, boost your potassium, ultimately with the goal of reducing those debilitating leg cramps. Now, keep in mind, if you do have leg cramps, always have a doctor check the blood flow in your leg arteries to determine if circulation is your major issue. But if it's not causing you the problem, it's not leading to your leg cramps, your blood flow is doing okay, even if you do have poor circulation known as peripheral artery disease. How can you reduce some of those wretched leg cramps when you walk? It comes down to you are what you eat, right, NP Deidre?
That's so true. And what we eat is very powerful tool.
And so we are talking today about the importance of consuming foods that are rich in potassium and magnesium. Would you explain why each is necessary?
So these are two minerals that really play a role in your muscle contraction and relaxation. So magnesium and potassium are the ones that the foods rich in that are the ones that really are related to cramping. So we dig into kind of foods that help improve magnesium levels and potassium levels. And they also act as like hydration and anti-inflammatories for the body as well.
So, what is your number one, top of the list, favorite food that may have both of these important nutrients?
Oh, that's a good question here. So for both ingredients, it's probably going to be the leafy green. If you're asking my favorite, spinach and kale, right? You get a dual magnesium and potassium hit there. And the way that spinach and kale works is the magnesium helps regulate the muscle relaxation and potassium supports the nerve signaling and fluid balance. So you only need about a cup of cooked spinach, and I really like to add that to like eggs in the morning or in a smoothie or just eat spinach raw. But a cup of cooked spinach is about 157 milligrams of magnesium and about 839 milligrams of potassium. So it's a really good way, and pairing that with a healthy fat to really help absorption and enhance that absorption of the fat soluble vitamin K that we get through the kale and the spinach and those minerals.
I think that's so important to find ways to mix spinach and kale into your everyday foods, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can mix it in with your romaine lettuce or iceberg lettuce at lunch. I love your idea of adding the spinach to some eggs in the morning. I scramble up eggs with some spinach, some mushrooms, a few tomatoes, and even a little bit of kimchi. Add a little cayenne pepper to it as well. I know that was your number one to improve blood flow and reduce leg cramps that you have mentioned in multiple episodes of Ask
Yeah.
NP Deidre. So I am taking that seriously and adding that to literally everything now. Cayenne pepper, more cayenne pepper, as much as I can handle, as much as my dad can handle as well, because I cook all of his meals for him. But spinach, I even add to my every sauce that I make, and I make all my sauces from scratch. I always add a big pile of spinach because it just melts right down and it doesn't taste the flavor and it just adds additional nutrients to every single bite that you take, right?
It's really delicious, easy to get a lot of spinach in when you're trying to cook it down. Like a cup of that, when you cook it down, doesn't seem like very much food that you're intaking either. So it's a great way to add magnesium and potassium.
Okay, we always hear about eat a banana. If you have a leg cramp, eat a banana. I know that there are some diabetics because of the sugar in bananas that do have trouble with that and they need to watch out in terms of eating the bananas or maybe eating the bananas alone, possibly adding some protein along with the banana might help to balance out those sugars in the banana. But why are bananas so helpful to reduce leg cramps?
Well, bananas help because they're a potassium powerhouse. They help maintain the fluid balance, the nerve function, and muscle contractions. And if you have a potassium deficit, that can lead to increased muscle cramping. And you really only need about a medium banana. I know sometimes we go to the grocery store and they look humongous, but a medium banana has 420 milligrams of potassium and it has about 9% of what we need daily. If you really want to mix it up, like you said, nut butter, almond butter, really to slow that sugar absorption and add magnesium or a handful of nuts can be really good. And if you're looking at improving the gut microbiome, green bananas actually provide a resistant starch, which is really good for the gut microbiome as well. So gut health and potassium. So
I do actually prefer the greener bananas. I didn't know they had an additional health benefit there. I don't like a really ripe banana. It is too sweet for me. I like the just the to be just enough green to take away that really ripe taste. I don't know how
right.
else to describe it, but I don't like that really ripe taste. So what other foods you
Yeah,
mentioned that can
and
help
this resist
reducing?
sweet potatoes. That's a topic too. It's potassium and it's got lots of fiber in the sweet potatoes. It contains more potassium than bananas. Can you believe that? But it can help regulate your blood sugar and inflammation. So look at a medium sweet potato. It probably about 5 milligrams of, and I like to eat sweet potatoes with um, uh, like smashed with a little bit of coconut oil and some cinnamon on them. I feel like the cinnamon really enhances the flavor. I'm not somebody who adds the sugar to it, like the candied yams or anything like that. And it tastes really good with adding beans. You see a lot of Southwest dishes that way, or salmon, to really kind of enhance the flavor and add some anti-inflammatory to that meal.
And with sweet potatoes, I was told that with starchy vegetables, kind of like that, that you want to stick to starchy vegetables only 1 to 2 times a week. Is that true?
Yeah, sticking to them less is really good. But however, some people do need more resistant starches, so cooked and cooled of these to produce butyrate in the gut microbiome. So it's really different for everyone. I think variety is the key to what we're doing here. We're going to pick multiple of these foods and we can scatter them through the week and everything. So, but the in the American Journal of Physiology, the potassium-rich diets help improve your vascular compliance and they reduce arterial stiffness. So there's been some studies done on the foods that we eat as well, helping.
If you do have chronic kidney disease or end stage renal disease, though, you do need to watch how much potassium you do intake, and you need to talk to your doctor to ensure you understand the foods and how much of them are right for you, especially if they're potassium rich.
Exactly, and work with the dietitian and really hone in on the foods that you like and what you can add and what you're already eating and getting potassium in.
Okay, what about avocados? I know that they're a healthy fat, but do they have additional nutrient benefits that may help reduce leg cramps?
Yeah, they provide potassium too. So a half of an avocado is about 487 milligrams. So that's up there with the banana, up there with the small potato. And avocados are one of the richest potassium sources. They also contain magnesium, your B vitamins, and they have that great anti-inflammatory healthy fats as well. How do you eat yours? Because I'm a lover of it on everything.
Everything. thing I put it on. I even add it. I don't like to mix it up in my scrambled eggs. So what I'll do is I'll just cut up a few thin slices as a decoration for the side of the plate. And I'll consume little bites of it with the eggs. I just don't want it all mashed up in there. I also make my own homemade guacamole, which is so easy. I mean, you mash up an avocado, add in some onion, add in a little cilantro, a little bit of pepper, tiny bit of Celtic salt, and tomatoes, onions, and you have your own little guacamole. And I dip some cucumber slices into it, which is absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I love avocado in many different ways. On the side of my eggs with those leafy greens. Really, if you're doing it that way and we're pairing it with things, we're going to get basically a full cramp fighting plate there.
Love that. The other thing, I'll add it to my salads, but I'll use it as a base. So when I make a shrimp louis, for example, I love making shrimp louis. I'll actually put an avocado in the middle and I'll put the shrimp in the middle of the avocado. And I don't use a regular Thousand Island dressing. I modify it. I know everyone loves those creamy dressings, but if you want to make something a little bit more heart healthy, you should definitely get a high-end olive oil and a really good. I use an apricot infused vinegar, white balsamic vinegar coupled with a real high-end olive oil, and I sprinkle that on top, and is absolutely delicious. And you can have the entire rainbow on there. I just had that yesterday and I'm now craving it again.
Yeah, it's amazing how we can create a plate that's very colorful and very diverse, and we eat the rainbow within one meal even. So,
So, what about beans and lentils and all that jazz? There has to be some leg cramp reduction elements in those as well, I would imagine.
yeah, you've got your fiber, obviously, and potassium and magnesium, and your beans and lentils. So, it helps by combining both cramp fighting minerals while promoting gut and heart health as well. Usually, about a cup of cooked has about 71 milligrams of magnesium, but the potassium and a, a cup of it is about 700 to 800 milligrams. And, it's great to put in your soups, your salads, doing mashed into some dips or something.
Oh, that all
Definitely
sounds
those
so
Mediterranean style
good.
foods.
So good. So good. Okay, so what am I missing here? Are there some other foods that I'm missing? I before we get to dessert, which is my favorite.
Well, we didn't talk about like the fatty fish, the salmon, the
Okay.
mackerel, the sardines at all, which are really magnesium and omega rich. So those fatty fish provide magnesium for the muscle relaxation, but then you get that added benefit of omega-3 to help reduce the vascular inflammation. Even though a 3 ounce serving of salmon only has about 26 milligrams of magnesium, that packed with the anti-inflammatory of the omega is really good. And I really like to pair that with my sweet potatoes there. For me, baked or grilled with some herbs is amazing.
We just had this conversation about fish with Dr. Michael Danzinger, and people can actually go to youtube.com/, the at sign, the way to my heart. And you can see the episode that we just did about all different kinds of fish, everything that you needed to know about choosing the right fish for your heart healthy diet. And he was talking about that you need to make sure it's wild, and you need to make sure that you have fish that's low in mercury. And if you do have fish that is higher in mercury, like tuna or swordfish, limit swordfish to once a month, limit tuna to maybe once to twice a week at most. But salmon is his number one pick, as it's your number one pick as the healthiest fish available, with so many different health benefits for it.
Right. I love salmon. I love to recommend that if people will eat it. I live in a part of the country that we don't have any like salmon here that's like wild. So I actually have my salmon and my fish wild caught and flown to me. Like I use one of those companies. So it's hard when you live in certain parts of this country to get those things. So just checking with your local grocery and things like that to make sure, asking them, is it wild caught? Is this farm raised? I mean, go ahead and question.
We also fly ours in. We found that it was more cost effective and we had better quality fish when we would get it from Great Alaska or Great Alaskan Seafood, I think it's what it's called. And I think there's also a Wild Alaskan Seafood, but we use the one that starts with Great. I think it's Great Alaskan Seafood. And we fly it in once every other month and just pack it in the freezer. And for each slice, they're usually about 8 ounces. You only need 4 ounces. So when I'm cooking for my dad and I share one piece of salmon, serve it with a sweet potato and an artichoke, and it makes for a great meal.
That sounds amazing, delicious. We've got the magnesium, the omegas, so many great benefits to a meal when you can add salmon in. But I know not everybody likes it, so we do have supplementing of fish oils, but um, I think getting it through your food is a great way to do that.
That was actually a question that we didn't have answered in terms of supplementation of omegas. I know I take 2 omegas a day. And those are the biggest pills ever. I don't know, unless you're getting the krill oil and they're little small red pills. But I get these big mammoth size uh, fish oil capsules. Do those do anything? I mean, is it good to supplement?
So the jury's out about that. It depends on what study you're looking at and everything. But when we look at, there's a couple, Lavazza is a prescription one, Vasipa is another prescription one, and most of those studies are showing 4 grams. So 4 of those large capsules of fish oil every day is where you get the benefit of the cardiovascular in that and the decreased inflammation. But I have, had patients improve their numbers of inflammatory markers with less than that. But when we're looking at studies and what were the most impactful, it is a much higher dose of omega.
And so Lawrence is joining in. He's a journalist and host of a show called Abled and On Air, which you have been featured on as well as I have. And he is asking about how much tuna fish is bad for you, canned tuna or fresh tuna. And that's an interesting question. It goes beyond the topic of magnesium and potassium, but in the show that we did just earlier this week with Dr. Michael Danziger, he was saying that canned tuna is absolutely great 1 to 2 times a week. And he even specified that the cheaper canned tuna, not the solid white chunk, but whatever the other option is, he said is actually better for you because it's lower in mercury.
So there you
Interesting.
go. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So if anyone wants to find out more about fish, we can go ahead and share that. Maybe our producer Josh here can grab the link to that and put it in the comment section of our YouTube channel where we're actually going live with our video right now, our YouTube channel, both for Nurse Practitioner Deidre, and her YouTube channel is youtube.com/the NP Deidre is her sign. Is that right?
That's right.
Perfect. So you can go there, or you can go to the @ the way to my heart, and you can find this video as well. But we'll make sure that we put that video about the fish in the comment section. But I think it's time we go on to desserts because this is my favorite. And we don't have our good friend Heinz, who's typically in our live studio audience, to refute our claims about chocolate or to rain on our parade. He does make good points that too much chocolate is not necessarily a good thing, as there might be some metals or other things found in some chocolates in some places. But everything in moderation, and dark chocolate is the best chocolate. But how does dark chocolate actually help reduce leg cramps?
So you definitely want to be 70% of cacao or higher for this. And you're right, it's a tasty magnesium source for sure. But it has high magnesium and antioxidant flavonoids that help support your blood flow and your nerve health. So even just a couple squares of it give you about 64 milligrams of magnesium. So you can eat it just by itself. You can eat it melted with some berries or some nuts. And that's another thing we should add into our dessert is adding some nuts in with the dark chocolate or pair it with your bananas to have a really great snack there. But looking at the 70% in cacao and higher to get that better magnesium source.
I think that would be really fun one day if we actually did some dark chocolate covered fruits, frozen bananas and strawberries and blueberries and raspberries. And because you can get that 70% dark chocolate and maybe just add, what would you use? I mean, you could even mix a little banana in there to sweeten it just a little bit. You can also sweeten it with apple, which we have done before, which is really interesting. And a little bit of agave nectar is what I use, and I use just a drip in my dark chocolate. And then you freeze the bananas, take it out, and dip it right in there. And oh my goodness, you have a wonderful frozen treat that is sweet and satisfying and helps to reduce leg cramps.
Yeah. I mean, total benefit there, right? I'm a dark chocolate and raspberry person. I really love the way they pair together just for the flavor and the sweetness. And I don't need to add much else to dark chocolate if it has raspberry. I really enjoy it that way. Um, and then always chocolate and nuts go together as well, right? Whether
They
they're raw
always
or
do.
roasted, so good.
And I want to add in really quickly before we get ahead of ourselves, but Dr. Chris Bromley, he is a podiatrist, one of my favorite podiatrists out of Florida. He's incredible. He just wants to make sure to remind people who have tuned in, and we've talked about supplementing of omegas, taking that fish oil via a supplement. And he says, make sure that those who do supplement, that you advise your healthcare provider if you are taking fish oil. And that's especially important if you are going to have a procedure coming up. My dad, for example, was having a heart catheterization, and they made him stop not only his blood thinners, but his omega supplement and his turmeric supplement. So, always important that you let your provider know what supplements you are taking. So, just want to give you that reminder. And speaking of supplements, nurse practitioner Deidre, what about potassium and magnesium supplements?
So a lot of times magnesium is the one that you'll see supplemented the most. We don't always have a need for potassium unless we're getting labs and we're looking at that. But magnesium we can base off symptoms. So a lot of times if you're having muscle cramping, the leg cramping, you're having constipation, you feel soreness, you have headaches, those are some signs that you have magnesium deficiency. Doing a blood test with a red blood cell count of magnesium isn't always the best at knowing if we need magnesium. We usually base that on symptoms, and most of the time it's 2 to 300 milligrams. And when you're supplementing, it's there are so many sources out there to look at, like what's good for what. We've got the cheaper forms like magnesium oxide, which helps with your GI. But really, if you're just looking for just kind of an overall good one that's even good for metabolic health, would be the glycinated magnesiums. Usually 2 to 400 milligrams to start, and definitely, talk to your provider about what is best for you. But tends to be the most tolerated, less GI side effects.
And again, always make sure to check with your own healthcare provider to get explicit consent to follow any advice or information here. Do not act on any of the educational information that you hear from us until you get that consent from your own healthcare provider. And so, nurse practitioner Deidre, do you want to just summarize? We have covered so much. We have talked about all of the different foods that will help for people who are experiencing leg cramps. If your circulation is doing fine, especially if even if you have peripheral artery disease, but you're getting these leg cramps may not just be a circulation issue, it might be a mineral deficiency in potassium or magnesium. So, in summary, nurse practitioner Deidre, what should they do?
Well, start with your foods. Eat a variety of foods. You know, you want certain foods are vasodilators, certain foods improve magnesium. And so it's not about eating just one food over and over. It's about eating a variety, always getting out there and walking to help improve your blood flow. And then just enjoy the foods that you're eating and mix them up and get the most bang for your buck when you're adding fruits and vegetables and foods that are rich in magnesium and potassium.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nurse Practitioner Deidre. We really appreciate you. And hopefully, everyone will join us every single week. And we're going to continue with this conversation of all these different foods and drinks and all that jazz that are helping to improve your blood flow next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. So make sure you do subscribe to our channels to get notified of all this incredible content. And don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Thank you again, Nurse Practitioner Deidre, and everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you.